Hello. Hello. Okay, I gotta stop. Okay, but hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna have those, cozy, thinky conversations where we just stare at the ceiling, question everything, and dive into the human experience. So today's question is, are there more good or bad people in the world? Oof, I know this is a big question. It's kind of difficult to just know right off the bat, but we want to talk about this because it is important to us to know. And I remember in the past, when I was in a worse mental state, I used to think that there were low key a lot of bad people in the world, and I feel like my worldview was just skewed in a way that just wasn't accurate. But the reality of the matter, in my opinion, is that I genuinely don't think people are 100% good or 100% bad. And people are just people. We're messy, complicated, emotional. Sometimes we're kind, sometimes we're selfish, sometimes we're just trying our best, sometimes we're going through something. So there's always something happening that we don't know about in other people's human experiences. And I mean, think about yourself for a second. You've probably been kind, you probably hurt someone, made a mistake, tried to fix something, or you just generally learned something the hard way. And there's people out there who probably like you or like you a little less. The point is, people are not fixed as good or bad, and we're always in progress. So, how do you start to see the good in people? And this part is really important because the world can feel really heavy sometimes, and it's hard to see the good in people. It's really easy to focus on bad news, toxic behavior, and people being rude or selfish because it really stands out. And then your brain goes, wow, everyone kind of sucks. And I hate everyone, even though that's not necessarily the full picture. And I remember I literally said, I hate everyone. And just hating humans. But there's a lot of reasons for this. Given the conflicts, the environmental degradation that's happening in our society, we're living through all these things and we're like, dang, humanity sucks. And soon we're gonna create AIs and everything is going wrong and oh my God, we're the worst. And in some part, technically, yes, it's true that we are causing a lot of damage. Um, but there are ways to overcome this, and we are making progress in overcoming these things. Obviously, some things are beyond our control, but it's not really fair to just have a negative worldview and let that dominate our whole, existence and the way we see people instead of having hope. Because it's gonna sound so cliche, but it's good to be hopeful and more optimistic because that's how good things can be done. You think people who start all these charity and foundations just decided to give up? No, they created something. They're building things. I think someone developed a replacement for packaging containers that are sustainable. We made solar panels and batteries, and even though those have problems in themselves, we're trying. And that's only possible if we did have hope and if we did hold out hope that things could change and things could be different, right? And so, yeah, you have to see the good in things and more specifically, the good in people. So, I was just talking about, yapping about, external factors like war and conflict and environmental stuff and all of that. But even in our day to day interactions with people, people can be mean and selfish, right? And so you have to look for the good in people, or you have to recognize why people are bad or why they are a certain way. And if it bothers you, avoid them. Just avoid people who have a negative energy, but don't pin that on everyone. Like for example, there's even conflict between men and women, especially younger generations. Well, I'm not so sure, but a lot of generations just have this conflict in dating between men and women, and I've heard it firsthand, experienced it firsthand. You scroll on TikTok, it's trendy to hate on the opposite gender, and we're really forgetting that we can't pin the blame on the entire gender. There's always going to be bad people within a specific subset of a group, but to generalize it is just prejudiced, and it's really hard to not associate those patterns, especially when you're more young and susceptible. You're not going to see people as humans. You're not going to remember that everyone's just a human, everyone's just living for the first time. Maybe we should empathize and understand that people are going to be flawed and they're going to be self-unaware, but by having our own self-awareness, we can see the good in them, or at the very least we can understand why people are flawed and make mistakes. And yeah, it's not something to just immediately corrupt your own worldview, because that could be bad for your mental health. And also, even if someone does something wrong, makes a mistake, they can correct it, and it doesn't immediately permanently make someone a bad person. I mean, me personally, in the past, mm, my parents were quite abusive, but I don't think they're bad people because they regret that decision. They regret ever doing that. And even though they can't fully change the way that they act, um, they they do care about me in the end. And it's kind of difficult to see the good in people, at that point. And I think that's what made me at the time think that there weren't many good people in the world. But now you just achieve a level of understanding and you see why they were a certain way, and you realize, your parents are only human. And people who were close to you and maybe hurt you are also just human. And even though you don't have to excuse their behavior or think that you're obligated to just forgive them and forget about it, you you can just avoid them, but just accept and understand and be at peace with the fact that not everyone's going to be like that. Not everyone's going to be a bad person. And so yeah, damn, I went on the most deep string of, oh my god, my brain is braining. But anyways, yeah, so there's just stuff that goes on psychologically in people's heads. This is the most philosophical yap I have ever yapped in one straight sitting. Damn, I did not stop. But anyways, so what actually makes someone a good person? Well, this is my favorite part because I remember I watched the most peak TV show ever created. It's called The Good Place. If you haven't watched it, watch The Good Place. It's like my favorite TV series. It's so good. And it basically just talks about the afterlife, the concept of being good or evil as a human being, and the fact that in the end, what matters the most is improvement, is self-improvement and a drive to be willing to improve yourself. And that really is something that I believe in. I mean, you could be a bad person at the start and evolve over time. And obviously, I'm never going to excuse criminal activity. And criminal activity is a different genre of messed up, and I don't think that deserves forgiveness. But if you're just like, I don't know, a petty person, or you start drama, or maybe you've said some things you don't mean, and you're realizing that you have habits that are bad for you and you need to break and that may hurt people, well, then I really think that improvement is the way to go, and it's really important as a quality. Being willing to grow, learning when you admit you're wrong and try to do better next time. When you are able to listen to others and reflect on your behavior, because that is true emotional intelligence, is not being so caught up in your ego. And I swear to God, so many people are like this. But it is such a beautiful trained skill. If you can manage this, you're like a green flag of a person, an immediate green flag of a person. Like, I want to be your friend. I want to be your friend. I want you in my life. If you are willing to grow and be able to admit when you're wrong. Because, people have their egos attached, and I mean, I've never really struggled with admitting when I was wrong. I mean, I probably have at some point, I just don't remember. But I remember oftentimes in the past, I would so easily be able to say, like, I'm sorry, I did something wrong, or I was wrong. Whereas other people I've witnessed were really struggling to do that for some reason. And so yeah, it's hard to do that something, but yeah, watch The Good Place because it also dives super deep into the topic. It's a cute, funny show. I love it. 10 out of 10. It should win every. I'm pretty sure it did win many awards. So yeah, in conclusion, are there more good or bad people? So listen up, cutie patootie. Cutie patootie pie. Let me give you the answer, okay? I think there are more people trying to be good and to be better than trying to be bad. I genuinely do think that. And is it backed by statistics? No. But I do firmly believe in the end, everyone just wants happiness. And in the end, if people are, kind of deviating and seemingly being bad or selfish or something like that somehow, it just comes from immaturity, a lack of self-understanding, but that can always be learned and built up. And I think that there's so many good people out there, people who are actually willing to help. And I've witnessed so many nice, kind people. And so it is so important to let that shape your world's view of good and bad people as well. Because, like, I've been through some petty drama. I've been through some petty interactions with people I did not like. They did not like me. It happens. It's inevitable. But I don't even think they are inherently horrific people. I think that there were circumstances that made people that way, right? And people may not always get along, and that's fine. But just self improvement and fundamentally not being a horrible person, that's what matters. So, just a gentle reminder from me to you, you are allowed to be a work in progress. It's gonna be cliche again, I know, but like, you, it's okay to not be perfect and to make mistakes and to fumble sometimes. And you're allowed to mess up and learn and grow at your own pace and become a better version of yourself over time. You do not have to be perfect from the start to be good. No, you never have to be perfect. You just have to be trying and willing to make the right decisions and actively trying. So, yeah, maybe the world isn't full of perfect people, but at least there are people like you and I who are trying, okay? And I'll be honest, I am guilty, okay? I've not been a perfect person. I could yap about all this philosophy, mental health stuff all I want, but in the end, I know I wasn't a perfect person. No one is. And I just want to keep trying, even though sometimes I'll forget and I won't actively be thinking about this because we lead very busy lives, so it's hard to keep up with this stuff. But as long as you pick yourself back up and you keep trying. But anyways, if you made it this far, thank you for being with me, still staying here. So yeah, please like, subscribe, and take care of yourself. And also leave a comment. Do you think people are mostly good or mostly bad? And why? Because I would really want to hear your thoughts. Anyways, bye bye. I love you, and I will see you in the next video.